What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Around the Table Sports. So, I dropped a video a few days ago talking about whether or not I thought the committee got it right on their playoff picks, and I kind of want to revisit this topic, but give playoff predictions, right? So before we get into all that, as always, if you watch my last video, we went from 60 to over 200 subscribers in less than a week. I'd love to keep this growth going. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much for checking out my channel, for subscribing, for even watching the videos, right? Even if you don't subscribe, just watching the videos means a ton to me because I love doing this, but it would mean even more if you subscribed and you're already here. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That way you know anytime I'm uploading, any film reviews I'm doing, any just talking videos I'm doing, you'll know about it and we can have an interaction and kind of talk about sports because this is my favorite thing in the world to talk about and I think it is very important. So with all that being said, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the like because that does wonders for the YouTube algorithm, and drop a comment down below to let me know your predictions for the playoffs because stuff like comments and likes really does a lot for a small channel like mine for the YouTube algorithm. All that being said, let's talk about it. So first, I'll start off with number 1 versus number 4, Alabama versus Notre Dame. And I think that video that went viral of the old lady saying, "No, God, please," when she found out Notre Dame is going to be playing Alabama, pretty much well encompasses what everybody is thinking about this game. Notre Dame did amazing, beating Clemson the first time. And Notre Dame fans, I do hear you when you kind of get tired of people saying, "Oh, but it was Clemson without Trevor Lawrence." That's true. They didn't have Trevor Lawrence, but DJ Uiagalelei came in there and did his thing, right? It's not like DJ Uiagalelei came in there and was throwing interceptions and really struggling, and that's why they lost the game. If anything, Etienne was a bit more to blame for the loss than DJ Uiagalelei. On the flip side of this, Notre Dame fans, Clemson fans are absolutely right when they say, okay, well, sure, DJ Uiagalelei had a big game, but it's the attitude of the team is just different when Trevor Lawrence is there. He's their leader. So it's going to be different when he's there. DJ Uiagalelei is amazing. If you've watched this channel before, you know I think that he's one of the better quarterbacks, and he's going to be one of the premier quarterbacks in college football when his time is called, which it'll be next year, and he'll prove everything that I've said right. I have no doubt about it. The point remains is that it's not Trevor Lawrence. That's no knock against DJ Uiagalelei. It's the point of that team has grown with Trevor Lawrence. They have fought with Trevor Lawrence. They have gone to war with Trevor Lawrence. And there they were going to war without Trevor Lawrence, their leader. That's going to do something to you mentally, right? Whether or not we can excuse the loss for that, which I don't, because DJ Uiagalelei played great. So I give the argument credence without saying it absolves Clemson of the loss, if y'all get what I mean. I absolutely think there's weight to the argument of, oh, well, Lawrence wasn't there. But DJ Uiagalelei threw for like 450 yards. I mean, he was sensational that game. So, you know, I feel you. Here's where it ends to me, Notre Dame fans. They spanked you when they did have Trevor Lawrence, right? So that probably gives the argument much more credence because when they did have Trevor Lawrence, it really didn't matter. They just ran all over you and did what they wanted. And because of that, I don't know how this Alabama goes for Notre Dame. Here's the positives for you, Notre Dame. Ian Book is dynamic. Ian Book is much better than I thought he was. I'm not saying I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in college football, but he is much better than I thought he was. He's a very serviceable college quarterback, and he's very crafty. And that's the thing I think that people don't really give him is he's a very crafty quarterback. He's very fun to watch in that regard. And Notre Dame does have some nice weapons. I think the offense is built well for what he does. But here's the negative, Notre Dame. You allowed 6 sacks against Clemson. And Clemson has a great defensive front, but Clemson doesn't have guys right now that are trending in the direction of a Will Anderson. Now, look, make no mistake, Clemson fans, I'm not trying to say that any of y'all's guys are less than a Will Anderson. That's not my contention here. My contention is Will Anderson is one of the hottest players in football right now because week 1 through 8, he had no sacks. Week 8 through now, he's leading the SEC in sacks with 7. That type of heating up isn't replicated anywhere else. And because of that, Notre Dame, you gave up 6 sacks last week to Clemson, and you're about to play the pass rush that is the hottest in college football right now, in my opinion, because as the season has gone on, this Alabama pass rush has really found its stride. Remember, guys, I made a video on Will Anderson, and it really blew up, but that video was made after the first game. I was able to see his ability after the first game, and that in no way makes me a genius. That I was just looking at it, and I knew that his clock wasn't quite with college football yet, And when it hit the same time as college football, when he really figured out the speed, it was going to be just hell to pay for all of college football, and here we are. He's figured out the speed, and now he's unstoppable. Really great player in Will Anderson. I worry about that for you, Notre Dame. Now flipping back to a positive for you. Landon Dickerson is hurt. Landon Dickerson is the heart and soul of that Alabama offensive line. They are plenty talented without Landon Dickerson. They still have first rounders on that offensive line. But he is the spirit of that offensive line. And while I don't know if Notre Dame has enough up front defensively to overcome that loss against a team like a Clemson with a Brian Brees, that does start to worry me a little bit of how the loss of Landon Dickerson will play out. But at that point, I am kind of assuming that Alabama beats Notre Dame and that Clemson beats Ohio State. So here, shocker, my prediction for the Alabama-Notre Dame game, I don't think it's going to be close. Alabama's going to roll. I'm going 35-14, and I think that the Tide could score more, but they're just going to kind of ride off into the sunset. I don't think it will be particularly close after the first quarter. I think Notre Dame might do some things to throw off the Tide defense early, but after that, it's not going to be much of a measuring stick. Now, let's move on to the one that I do believe is a bit more intriguing, and that is Clemson-Ohio State. Now, Clemson-Ohio State is a rematch game from, a few years ago, and Fields and them will want blood. Here's the problem to me. They're not battle-tested this year, right? Ohio State has no battle testing, whereas Clemson has fought through adversity. Say what you will about that Notre Dame loss. In a game like this, that loss could be the best thing to happen to Clemson this year because they experienced the loss, they experienced the pain, and then they fought back and got revenge. They already have that suffering in their mind of what a loss is. So because of that, I think that they're in a much better place as far as mentally going into the game because they're much more prepared. They've seen more. They've seen better teams this year. Ohio State is really at a disadvantage with the fact that they only have played 5 games, or 6 with the championship, and the Big Ten was atrocious. I mean, Northwestern is great. Y'all know how I feel about Northwestern, but outside of that, the Big Ten was absolutely a dumpster fire. Michigan and khaki pants can't get anything right, and Penn State was unbelievably bad this year. Because of all of that, I actually think that this game is going to be closer in the first half until Clemson really stretches away in the second half. I believe Ohio State will make a fourth quarter push, but it won't be enough. Ultimately, I think Clemson by 14 points. I'm not really sure about the score on this. But this is the game I think could be a lot closer. I think that if Ohio State had a full season, we're looking at a very different thing because they're battle tested, right? Like if they would have played a good round of teams, they would be much more battle tested going into this game, much more prepared. But Ohio State has fought through a lot this year. And I don't know how much they'll be able to stand Clemson because Clemson has fought through more on the football field. But y'all drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these playoff games. And if you haven't already, once again, subscribe to the channel. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your prediction for the playoffs are. But ultimately in the national championship, I have the University of Alabama versus Clemson for the national championship. Shocker, I know. And of course, we will be covering that when it happens. That's it. See ya.